All right, we back, man. We about to get back to the work now. I already got this picture of this joint right here, y'all. I'm just letting y'all get a little something, y'all. Talking about honor and dishonor. So, all that anger is for the lying, it's for the deception, it's for the bullshit. And it's to make sure that you understand that this shit is important, y'all. And it's interesting, young. If you interested in your well-being and your children's well-being, if you interested in have a good quality of life and a suitable standard of living, these are the things you're gonna need to know, man. You know, all that anger is because I've been gypped out of every hour that I done worked my entire life. My mother worked over 80,000 hours in her career, young. And that's part of her estate. And she got gypped from 71 on, y'all. And it's still going on, y'all. It's still going on, y'all. And I'm just saying, probably wasn't supposed to tell nobody this shit. But hey, I ain't got what I need, y'all. And my family ain't got what they need. And even if they did, y'all, I still do this shit. Because it's my duty. And it's my honor. And yeah, they might want to kill me. They might want to try to sabotage me. Who the fuck knows? They might want to try to do whatever they want to do because they always trying to silence truth, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Weak ass people always need to silence truth, y'all. Nah, just work on the fucking problem, y'all, and educate the people, y'all. Make people be almost equally educated, y'all. To at least to the standard of the law, y'all. Anything less than that, y'all, you're not gonna have no civil society, y'all. The job's gonna get done, y'all. All the jobs gonna still get done, y'all. You ain't gotta manipulate and cheat nobody and shit, y'all. God set it up, giving motherfuckers 30, 60, 94 returns, y'all. For the nigga that know about husbandry. That shit pay the highest returns around. I mean, realistic returns and shit, y'all. People be going way beyond, y'all. Them weak ass people that think they need so much. And you know why you think you need so much, y'all? Because you ain't competent, y'all. Because when you competent, you don't need that much, y'all. Motherfucking whole life could burn down and you rebuild that shit, y'all. Over and over and over again. Because you competent. To the level of your desire, y'all. And that's the level you got to train and teach people to, y'all. And if they not trained and taught to that level, y'all, you going to have the motherfucking differential in power is too far, y'all. Y'all are way over-regulated like children. And I guess you are somewhat like children in the sense that you're immature when you can't defend yourself, y'all. They've created some type of fictional game for y'all, y'all. And y'all measuring that shit off of money, y'all. What about your estate, y'all? You've been starting over generation after generation after generation. And you're going to continue to start over generation to generation after generation. Hey, but at the same time, you had your parents, your children have been demoralized, y'all. And in that demoralization, that's making you as unstable as a fiddler on the roof, y'all. Ha, check it out for the who got ears to hit. You know what I'm saying? Hey, somebody knew what the fuck was going to happen to you, y'all. And that's probably why they called his ass Fiddler in that other movie. Roots. Wow. Y'all. They played y'all, Slim. They played y'all. They played me too, y'all. They ain't playing me no more, y'all. That's it. Hey, we got to get to work, y'all. And this shit is about honor and dishonor, y'all. And that's why this shit got to be out in the public, y'all. And that's the other thing, y'all. Shit got to be public, y'all. You know what I'm saying? People's, it's hard, y'all. And it ain't got to be public to punish nobody, y'all. But it got to be public in order so that everybody know where everybody stand at, y'all. So that you don't get more than your shit, y'all. You know, and if you ain't willing to do your part, y'all, don't be expecting no whole bunch extra, you know what I'm saying? But not to say that your family or community shouldn't try to provide some minimal provisions for you if your injuries, if ain't no stopping us now, right? If your injuries have gotten you to a place where you incapable of earning a living, you know? I mean, because the golden rule is to do others how you want to be treated, young. That's the golden rule. It's hard to do with our insecurities and our fears, but if we really study the Bible and learn how to apply the faith properly, young, the fears will be diminished, and then we could become more human, and we could become more civilized, young, instead of running around acting like uncivilized people, young. Civilizations are made on the rule of law. Some of y'all don't know nothing about law, young. As soon as you get a letter in motherfucking mail, it's over for you, young. You know what I'm saying? And you already complying and shit. I don't know whether you have to or not. Just don't even want to deal with this shit. Just like everything else, you want to not deal with it. But we're going to get to that. But now, let's get to it. Honor and dishonor. The estate is in dishonor, young. It's in default. All right? Now, this causes us to disassociate, young. You know how they say you have patriotism? Patriotism is a love for your nation. Patriotism is also a love for your family. Your family is an organization. Your nation is an organization. We all got duties and obligations, and that determines whether we are in honor or dishonor. All right? These are fundamental rules of civilization. Now, you got to remember the estate starts with God. It starts with God. It starts with land. It starts with your parents. That's where the whole estate, the idea, the man-made idea of the word estate, describing this phenomenon. But when you are in dishonor, you're going to feel shame. You're going to feel emotional pain because it's identifying your incompetence. Now, this incompetence may not be your fault directly at this point, because there was an obligation to you through the social contract of your nation, or your nation state, or your city, or your community, and your family, and the adults, parents, to give you what you needed so that you could defend your unalienable rights that were birthed to you in your estate when you were born. Now, if you don't learn this, young, in a capitalistic society, you're going to get hurt. And I'm saying it's not unfair, because if you go watch nature, that's how it is. This is not unfair. This is nature playing out the way it does when you watch nature outside. So get that unfairness shit out of your mind, now. That's not the issue here. Now, when you fall into dishonor because somebody wasn't trained to be in dishonor, that wasn't their fault. Now, this is what leads me back to 1971. I had to track this shit down. What happened, y'all? Why am I having a hard time staying in honor and meeting my obligations and shit? I'm working my ass off, y'all. I'm working. Sometimes 16, 20 hours a day. And not just no fucking bottom of the line labor. I had a fucking business paying $80 an hour. And that still wasn't enough, y'all. To catch up to all of the fucking losses that the injuries caused. You understand me? All right, dishonor, young. Obligation. These balls have been dropped. Hey, these balls have been dropped. And are we going to continue to drop these balls, young? Hell no, we not going to continue to drop these balls. Nobody on my motherfucking team. You ain't going to be on my goddamn team dropping these balls, young. Because, young, it's too critical, young. Now, it's one thing if a motherfucker is making mistakes, young, but it's something else if a motherfucker won't train, young. That means he has no interest, young, and saving his own fucking life. And that's a fucking problem. And your injuries will do that to you, young. They are psychological injuries, young, that you can experience, young, to make you give up on yourself, young. Make you give up on your family. Make you give up on your community. Make you give up on your nation, young. Come on, man. I'll give you an example. I had some rabbits. Got out the cage. Had a hard time getting them back. Started figuring out what they was doing. Found a way how to trap them and catch them. I got one of them, got him back in the cage. He was fine. I went to get the other one, and I kind of had to handle him roughly the way I got him. I probably didn't handle him the right way when I picked him up. And I don't know if that hurt him or his feelings was hurt. I don't know if he was physically hurt or he was mentally and emotionally hurt. But when I put him back in the motherfucking cage, excuse my language, y'all, he wouldn't even eat. Maybe it was because he was used to being free and he didn't want to be in the cage no more. I don't know. But anyway, it turned his natural instinct backwards. And I observed this in nature. In a social science experiment. That's a social science experiment. And I ain't telling y'all gotta be scientists, young. But you gotta understand the process of discovery, young. The process of discovery is jurisprudence to science. Y'all got some studying to do, young. If you gonna get back in honor, young, you're gonna have to hustle it double time, young. And I'm talking football talk because that's how I learned it. You know what I'm saying? This is a race. A race. A race for resources, young. And guess what happens in competitions? Like football, young. They run reverses and shit. And they run screens. And they run trick plays and shit, young. And that's perfectly legal, young. Just like slavery was. But it wasn't legal for the motherfucker who could defend his rights. Understand? Whether he was black or not. Because that's international law. Hey, but just because you know law, that means you gotta be developing and training and strong enough in the areas that you need to be strong enough in. That means not being dependent for energy. I'm not saying don't use some other conveniences, but why the fuck are you dependent? Because they hovering that shit over your head with your money. And we'll get to that. But let me get back to it. I keep getting off, y'all. Because dishonor and dishonor thing is serious as shit, y'all. Because when you are in dishonor and disfault, you can't be trusted. You cannot be trusted. You are not dependable, y'all. And when you're not dependable, I'm not dependable. And when I'm not dependable, somebody else is not dependable. And it's just a fucking feedback loop that goes in on itself, young. And whoever the fuck it is that's sitting around here with all this money, thinking that this shit is alright, young, is a fucking fool, young. Cause that shit gonna take them down with it. You can't, come on, young. Gotta flood this motherfucker again, young. Or do what he did to Sodom and Gomorrah. Y'all think I'm crazy, young? Go study that fucking Bible, young. With learning how to discover what's real and what's not. And how to apply the shit that's beyond logic to the shit that's beyond logic and the shit that you need to reason for logical purpose. That's logic. So when a motherfucker is screaming at you or yelling at you or mad at you or disappointed in you, you can still fucking think. That's another reason why I'm yelling. Because you gotta be able to still think under them motherfucking conditions, young. And this is not for you. And this is not for you. It's for whoever the fuck it lands for, young. Whoever the fuck it hits home for, young. Whoever is adult enough, young, to take this shit serious, young. And to stand up. And to stop acting and ignoring like ain't nothing going on, young. Like you don't see what the fuck is going on out here. But I guess if you ain't competent
All you could do is shrink back from the shit, young. But guess what? It's as simple as showing up, young, and doing the work. Hey, we built a championship organization, son, on 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day a week. 4 days on Saturday, young. What's that? 14 hours, young. And then we socialized for about 8 more hours. So maybe about 20 hours total, young. Our coaches trained us every day, young, in the fundamentals, young. In the fundamentals. Then once we learn the fundamentals, young, we start learning the plays, young. Then when we start learning the plays, we start learning the strategies, young. And they were steady conditioning us, young, to be able to perform under pressure, young. Under the most extreme pressure. Under your own pressure and under the pressure of the outside world, young. Keep your head in the game. Keep your head in the game. Come on. Now I need y'all to get your heads back in the game, young. Because this is a game. Now I'm yelling like it's serious because I got a new injury and shit, man. I got a recent injury. And they seem to be getting closer and closer. The injuries. To a family member, man. That's holding the weight of all the motherfuckers not upholding their obligations, young. And as a result, assets are not performing. And when these assets don't perform, young, you fall in default. And that leaves you in this dishonor, young. Untrustworthy. Not for no reason of your own. That's why I gotta make these videos. And that's why I gotta talk with such intensity, young. Because we gotta get back in on. If you wanna call yourself a man, young. If you call yourself a man, young. If you don't know the rule of law and the language of law, you are not a man, young. Because you can not defend your rights. Yeah, you can kill a motherfucker, but that's all you can do. And take your ass on the jail while you at it. And leave the motherfuckers again in dishonor without the fucking protection and the provision that they deserve. Now we sitting here blaming the finger and pointing at each other and everybody. And it's a simple fucking fix, young. Step up, young. Step up if you a man. If you a woman. Step up, young. And stop the bullshit, young. And admit it. You've been duped. You've been miseducated, young. You was not educated to a standard to defend your estate, to protect your rights, to defend your parents' honor, and to defend your, provide and protect for your children. That's the state of this union, young. You hear me? Do you hear me? That's the state of this union. And I can prove it. And I already proved it in all the shit I said. And anybody who knows the doctrine of discovery can go and check that shit out in the congressional record, young. And in the record of their families. If they keeping records. That's another big ass problem. We need to keep better records, young. And that's what this is about. A fucking record. Of a place and time. Of a man. Of a man. Correcting the wrongs, young. Correcting the mistakes, young. And correcting the low-ass level of interest. Because when you yell, motherfuckers interested, ain't because they think something about to happen. Man, this shit is some bullshit, young. You be getting your asses handed to you like you fucking children, young. All right, let's get it together. We gonna edit this joint, young. But look, how are you gonna get in honor, young? You don't know how to get out of default. You don't know how to get in honor. You don't even know what honor is, young. And I'm saying, we talking about money, but I'm saying, what governs money? Money is commercial paper, young. Money is a negotiable instrument, young. Do you know anything about that? No. No, you don't. And you need to learn, young. Because that's how they got you. In the language. Because you can't read. You can read, but you can't read. Oxymoron, huh? No, it's not, young. Most people don't know the parts of speech, huh? But if you really know the parts of speech, huh?
A lot of shit will reveal itself, young. On that basic level. But a lot of people missed that one, and I did too. And I still got to refresh on that. But there's other ways to discover, you know what I'm saying, of what's really going on. And when somebody telling you truth and when somebody lying to you, you know, you should be mad as fucking mad as I am or somebody else, because every injury you got is related to the dishonor of the social contract, you know, and to the dishonor of us not being dependable enough, competent and dependable enough to stay out of default and in honor. And all it means is that we gotta love each other. But you can't love each other if you can't provide and protect each other. And you can't protect each other if you can't provide in this world. And if you getting cheated out of your fucking labor and your ideas and everything else, your whole fucking life, then you sitting here looking like a weak man. And I tell you one motherfucking thing. Huh? I ain't no weak man, Slim. And I ain't no dumb man. I'm a wise motherfucking man. I'm one of the wisest around. And I'm one of the strongest around. You better believe that. And my father was too. Yeah, they wasn't ready for him. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to tell these motherfuckers and help them 50 years ago. Trying to convince them. Like I've been trying to convince y'all to show up to invest in houses on Capitol Hill. Yeah? 50 years ago, my father had plans to invest in houses on Capitol Hill. He understood what the fuck was going on, young. And he tried to get people on this street to get with it, young. And they wouldn't, young. They was too scared, or they thought because he didn't look like a professional, young, that he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Go check and see how much them houses was worth on Capitol Hill 50 years ago. And see how much they worth now, young. And if they would have took that motherfucking move, how much stress, young, that motherfucking move would have relieved off of that situation, young. But the ignorance or the fear or the unwillingness or inability to cooperate, to organize yourselves and correct, young. Course correct, young. Evaluate. We're going to be laying out some offers, young, for some classes, some basic classes for y'all, young. But you got to be willing to invest some money, young. I wish I could do it for free, but you won't value it if it's for free, young. You know, I try to get this shit away and nobody's interested, young. You know what I'm saying? So you got to pay, young. And it got to hurt a little bit. It got to cost you enough to be a sacrifice, young. Because if you're going to ever stay in honor, young, you're going to have to make sacrifices, young. And the reason why you are in this or a default is because you haven't been making the sacrifices. And that means the sacrifices are doing the basic work, learning the basic instructions before leaving earth, young. You need to be trained in that, young. That Bible is telling us something, young. That Bible is talking about husbandry, young. That joint is talking about how cunning the world is and how unfair the world is, young. And it's talking about language. God said that Eve was going to die, and the daggone Satan, Mammon, Lucifer said, he didn't say shit. He asked her a question. And that's all they doing to y'all asses. Now, when you ain't thinking right, you gonna answer the wrong way, huh? It's gonna trigger the thought that they trained you in. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, man, I'm saying the default is the lack of history, young. You gotta understand history in order to have context. If you don't have context, your motherfucking reasoning is gonna be off. You try to bring the meaning out of one sentence, out of a paragraph, and you didn't read the paragraph before and the paragraph below, your assumptions are gonna be off. And what I'm saying is, if y'all go back and check many of the assumptions that you've based your values on, young, I mean, do an empirical study on that shit. I have, young. You're gonna find, young, that shit is off. It is not in alignment with nature's God, young. At all. Did they ever teach you about natural law in school? Did they ever teach you about law? But you was going to spend a third of your life working for it, trying to defend the estate of your parents. And leverage it. You're supposed to be a good steward. What you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to tend to it. And you're supposed to multiply. And the people who didn't, in that parable, where he left them things or whatever, and the one buried it and the other three multiplied it, what did he say to the one that buried it? You wicked and lazy servant. You are wicked. You evil, you know? And nobody really want to accept that. But let me just stop. Get back to it. Honor. You got to show up, you know? And that showing up means that you got to admit that you don't know, you know? As a fucking adult, you don't know. You are incompetent, young, and that's why you and your children are wards of the state, young. And you don't know in law. And that's why they fucking you up so bad, because you can't defend yourself. And maybe you need to be a ward of the state if you can't defend yourself, young. You need to be a ward of somebody. Somebody need to be helping you figure out what to do with your time, young, and your attention, so that you can produce a living for yourself and contribute to society. You think you could just be out this motherfucker and not contribute, young? No. You got to contribute. Everywhere you go, you should be thinking about what you can contribute. How can you help? How can I help you? What did Kennedy say? It ain't what you can do for what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? It ain't about what your family can do for you. What can you do for your family? Because it's a symbiotic relationship. It's a feedback loop. And guess what? What happens if you got a field and you stop tending to the weeds, huh? The weeds take over. What happened to a field if you stop planting it? It stops producing, huh? And what did God do? In the beginning, he created and he produced. Why'd you stop producing anything other than babies? And I'm saying, we behind because we ain't interested in shit. And we let them trick us out of our curiosity. And that's part of your state. A state. Watch all the kids. Go look at the kids, young, tomorrow. The ones that's before the 4th grade. And see how many questions they ask. And guess why God made them like that? So that they can survive any circumstance and condition. So that they would be interested enough to learn what the fuck it is they need to learn. To stay here. Because he wants you to stay. He ain't in no rush for you to get up there, young. You got work for you down here. Like this work we doing right here. And I know people gonna think I'm crazy. Nah, my shit adds up, young. It might sound like a rant, young. But go back, transcribe the motherfucker. Define the words, huh? Yeah. This foul language, huh, is my contempt for the low interest, young. For survival, young. For the low interest in thriving, young. And being godlike. How you gonna be sold out to God and not want to be godlike? Not want to create? Not want to produce? That whole thing is about relationships, young. It's about relate. How do you relate to your environment, young? How do you relate to the people in your environment? The economy is how do you take these things and create a living for yourself, young? If you depending on other people to do it for you, you never gonna be the man or woman you need to be. And I ain't saying that you need to be doing it independently, but you need to be doing it in small groups that they call families, young. I'm going hard fucking with this shit. They call them families. Families are supposed to be teams, young. And that means there are obligations and duties to stay on task. But if you don't define what a man is, if you don't define what a woman is, then you just all ambiguous and shit. And you can't hit the mark. You try to hit a fucking target that you can't even see. So you never gonna hit it. So how many families have been started without defining what the roles and duties of the manhood and the womanhood was? Almost all of them. And whose fault is that? Nobody made you do it. It was your dishonor to your mothers and fathers, young. Your mothers and fathers had traditions. They had this shit worked out already. They know how to do this shit.
when this shit gets like this, excuse my language, but this traditional European relationship shit, one man and one woman, for the people that have been miseducated and cheated out of their labor, that shit is never going to work. That economically will not work. Because the people will be overburdened to do what a village is supposed to do with just two people. So they just keep giving you bullshit concepts, And because you don't know your history or you don't have an interest, you waste your time. You squander your time. You squander your energy, The very thing that you're supposed to be providing and protecting with, And if you wouldn't have to do it all the time, And I even be offering people like just 1 hour a day, Let's just work on this shit for 1 hour a day, And if that's too hard, for many, because they don't have enough time, or they don't have enough interest, or they don't think I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But hey, what you really saying is that you don't want to protect, and that you don't want to provide, and that you're not even aware that you don't know enough, And I'm saying this shit is not a hard fix, But you gotta learn the fundamentals, If you don't learn the fundamentals, you never gonna be able to play the damn piano. You ain't never gonna be able to do none of this shit, but you gotta learn the fundamentals of civics. You gotta know the history, And it ain't gonna take you that motherfucking long. You could, if you was willing to commit an hour a day, I told you, we built a championship organization on 2 hours a day. It don't take 8. You got 24. You sleep at 8. You got 16 left. If you're working for a job getting cheated out your labor, you still got 8 more where you can make it up. If you knew you was getting cheated, if you knew you had, you try to make it up because you got to work 3 jobs just to make one. And then you ain't got no time to raise your babies. And you ain't got no time to cultivate your relationships. And you ain't got no time to work on your community. And you ain't got no time to hold your officials accountable. You ain't got no fucking time because you mishandle it, You are not stewarding that shit the way it need to be. And you deserve to be in dishonor. And you deserve to be untrustworthy. And is that, are you going to keep producing that, And again, remember, when I started this is for my family, my future generations. Because I plan on starting another family. It's a little late, but hey, the first couple times, I didn't know what the fuck I was up against. But I do now. And I know what I'm doing. And I'm the man, the husband man, that's becoming more than proficient at husbandry. And yes, I'm going to be able to take on multiple helpmates because I can provide. God has made it available to me to provide 30, 60, 94. He told me he would provide for me if I follow what he said. And that's what I'm doing. And that's why nobody understands it. Because you got to revert back to the lowest common denominators, to find out where you got gypped at and where you got confused at and how you going to get your shit back in order. And this is how we going to get ourselves back in order. Becoming aware that we don't know. Making it a fucking standard, that we must absolutely know and not think that we know. And guess what? You know why iron sharpens iron, It's the friction. And that's what people don't like. The friction. And if you get used to avoiding that friction, you're never going to be smart enough or strong enough to defend yourself, or to defend your honor, defend a woman's honor, defend your parents' honor, defend your children's honor. You're going to always shrink back from it because you won't go through the friction when you're not under the pressure, and you won't let the men around you sharpen you, or the women who do know And you can't see their brilliance in them because you can't see the brilliance in you, yeah? And that's not a put down on you. That's just an awareness. I'm talking like this because I'm fighting a motherfucking ancient spirit. This shit is as old as man, yeah? But hey, I was born here for this, yeah? I was born, and every man was born for a particular fucking purpose, yeah? And we all got the same fundamental purposes, yeah? To survive and multiply, yeah? To protect and to provide. Basically, that's what your roles are, yeah? But they get complicated. They get more complicated as society gets more sophisticated. And then the roles change. And the information changes. And then people start calling people different shit. And then people forget who they were. And who they are. And what the fuck they can do. Man, Amos Wilson, man. This brother was on the same shit I'm on. I mean, I'm saying, I learned from him, yeah? And now I see that nigga die penniless, yeah? Fighting this shit. And I'm saying I'm not fighting it, but I'm making a documentation for my future generations, yeah? So that they know. Don't fall for this fucking trap, yeah? Don't fall for the trap of not showing up. Of not honoring your mother and father, yeah? And do not skip over your mother and father to go to God. God is important, yeah? But you ain't got no proof of God, yeah? You doing that shit to make up for your ignorance, yeah? And your lack of ability to deal with the idea of your motherfucking ass dying. Or somebody else dying. Shit don't die. It just multiplies. Energy is just transformed, yeah? That's all. You can't destroy no fucking energy. And that's what you are. From the dust you came, the dust you'll return. So they scared you with some fucking bullshit. And they keep scaring you with it. And they keep scaring you that you're not going to have enough food. And that you're not going to have enough fucking whatever you're going to need. God said 30, 60, 90-fold. And do you believe him or not? If you believe him, do what the fuck he said. Build the foundation on that. And if you build it on that, you're going to be able to provide for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. Not chasing the money. And I'm not telling you not to play the money game, y'all. But that's the fucking trick. You don't understand it. Go back and watch Trading Places, y'all. Trading Places, y'all. They traded places with you, y'all. And it was a bet for $1, like they said. It's like, no, but it was a good representation, though. But I'm saying it's just important. But anyway, honor, dishonor. Young, I had to get that off my back. Now, let's get back to the studies, young. If you don't show up, young, if you don't show up to work your lane, young, you are in default, young. When you go to court, young, guess what happens? If you get summons and you don't show up, young, what happens? You are in contempt, young. You are held in default. See, it ain't that fucking complicated. It's the same as above and below. So when you don't show up to your fucking team, y'all, with a teachable attitude, y'all, and a teachable spirit, y'all, and an attitude that, y'all, you tired of getting your ass kicked, and you tired of your children getting injured and not being able to do nothing about it, and you tired of just this low-ass existence, y'all. You come from a great-ass people, y'all. If you created science and mathematics and documented the rule of law, y'all, you had to be extremely superb at husbandry, y'all. And organization, y'all. And reading the heavens, y'all. And charting a course, cartography, making maps, you know, and navigating by the stars, y'all. If it ain't no motherfucking street signs around, you gotta be able to navigate through the space and time of your mind, y'all. That's part of your estate. And I'm saying it might be hard to listen to this shit, but maybe it could just be transcribed or something, y'all. When I said I'm holding too much weight, y'all, my daughter is injured, y'all, because of people's lack of interest because of people's lack of showing up, young. And then you supposed to love your people through all that. That allows you to get your ass kicked, young. That allow you to show up and face 11 motherfuckers with an unprepared team. With niggas who don't even want to play. Done with playing. Or playing the wrong game. That happens quite often. A game that's going to leave your fucking estate empty and you're thinking about money, motherfucker. You're off. Excuse my language. But this, like I said, it's not for nobody but my own future generations, huh? And it's for whoever it lands for. If the shoe fits, the shoe fits. If it don't, it don't. All right. You got to show up. Got to be brutally honest, young. When you take 12 steps, you know one of the things they tell you, young? You got to take a fearless, young, moral inventory to break the addiction. You got to stop being addicted to this goddamn money, young. You got to break the addiction to the money, young, because that's how they trained you, young. That's your reward schedule. Can't you see? You the rat, young. And that's what they using to train your motherfucking ass. But they way past that now because y'all got the phones now, young. They don't even need the money no more, young. They even deeper down on your motherfucking... Come on, Slim. Babe, but we can learn how to defend ourselves against that. And that's what we here. And they ain't gonna all be like this. This locker room halftime. We down and shit. Type of talks, young. And this is one of the first ones. So I had to lay out why this shit, young. If you been gypped out of all your motherfucking labor, and your mother been gypped out of 80,000 hours of hers, and your father too, causing multiple generations of my family to be injured and suffer losses that cost us because somebody didn't uphold their oath of office. Let's just do it the right way. Let's just do it the right way. They didn't uphold their oath of office. And the people who they were in social contract with didn't have no time, first off, to check out what the fuck was done. And then secondly, didn't know how to sift through all the lies. The years of lying and shit. And cheating. And stealing. And nepotism. But it ain't no big deal, y'all. Because I can compete, y'all. We can compete. If you want to play. But you got to make a decision, y'all. You got to know that you don't know. If you knew, you'd be doing better. Or you could have this conversation. Or, matter of fact, not that you could have it. You would want to have this conversation, y'all. Because the healthy motherfucker that's running around calling themselves a woman or calling themselves a man, in their mind, they think they're going to do all they can to protect their children. But how have you evaluated it? How have you evaluated your competency of it? And the only way you got to evaluate it is with money. And then when the family break up. And then guess what? You point the finger at her and she point the finger at you. And that ain't even the issue. The issue is of the dishonor that started with the top of the nation in 71. And then it caused everybody else to fall in default. Not to mention other deceptive tactics, huh? Like I said, when you playing a game, huh? You can run reverses, you can run screenplays, you could do all types of tricks, huh? You could call fake audibles, you could call real audibles, you could do onside kicks, huh? It's all types of trick plays, huh? To confuse and discombobulate your opponents in the race. And y'all talking about white and black. That ain't the race, huh? But anyway, you in a race against your motherfucking ignorance, huh? And your lack of discipline. And again, this is for my future generations, you know. Now, if it's hard for you to admit that now that you're 50 years old and you don't know, 55 and you don't know, 65 and you don't know, 75 and you don't know, 45 and you don't know, 35 and you don't know, 25 and you don't know. And I could give you a little test, you know. Write down your definition of bank, you know.
right now. And then go look up that definition in the Black's Law Dictionary, young. And then come back and comment on my video and say, I know that I don't know, and I'm ready, and I'm interested to show up to learn what I need to learn. And I'm willing to commit the time and money that it takes to learn. Now, if you don't think it costs nothing, think about how much it costs you not to know. Like I said, weights and measurements, young. Weights and measurements are based on calibrations, young. Do you remember the triple beam scales they had in science class? For those of you who went to public schools, young, in the science labs, you had to calibrate them motherfuckers, young. And listen, money is a scale, young, and it's a measurement, young. It uses weights and measurements, young. And you go back and you check it. After you check that definition, check what happened. How and why did the money go from Federal Reserve notes from silver and gold certificates to Federal Reserve notes? And what did that mean? And what does that mean today? In the sense of, in 71, the provisions that you could buy for 8 hours worth of work, in 91, it took some 20-some hours worth of work to buy the same provisions. So now, what did they do? They stole part of your estate. Or no, you allowed yourself to be duped out of part of your estate. They didn't steal it. You gave it away in your ignorance. You see what I'm saying? Because now they pulling time and energy away from you educating your young people so that they don't get caught in all these traps, huh? But no, because you don't know how to educate them, because you don't have the time to educate them, because you're not willing to make the sacrifices, then what happens? Then your children ain't prepared. We wasn't prepared to deal with these crafty ass, the most crafty. Elijah Muhammad said somebody was a devil, you know. I ain't saying nobody no devil, but I'm just saying, God, if it is a God, there must be an opposing force. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, on earth. And they did say somewhere the devil is ruling or the whole universe or whatever, or whole earth or something. But none of that matters though. But I'm saying, y'all, you got to come to that realization. You got to admit it. You got to tell yourself that. And you got to let yourself off the hook, y'all. But the only way you can let yourself off the hook, y'all, is if you, listen to me. The only way you can let yourself off the hook, y'all, is if you commit to learning what you need to know in the areas that you need to know them in, y'all. And you got to know that you don't know. And you got to know that you need to find out. Mo, I'm going to play that while I'm knowing my thing.
If they came on, I'm just going to cut it off now.
All right, look. The only way it's going to work, y'all, is if you commit, y'all, to doing the work, y'all. Don't try to let yourself off the hook if you ain't commit to finding out what you need to know. Don't let yourself off the hook if you ain't committed to doing the work and getting with other people who doing the work who also will hold you accountable. Your progress is slow because there's nobody assessing you and there's nobody holding you accountable. Young, you give all your time to every other organization, young, other than your friends and family, young. Your friends and family ain't producing shit but a party, young. And guess what? You got a trade deficit, young. And it's causing you injury and you don't know that's what's causing you injury. If a disaster happens, young, you are fucked up because you don't have the skills that you need. And that's telling you something. That's husbandry. If you was certified in husbandry, young, and I'm going to have some certification for y'all, you'll be able to deal with a disaster, young. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't need some help, young, but you wouldn't need nowhere near the amount of help that people need. Because then you wouldn't be so dependent. And guess what? When you're not so dependent, guess what? You're not so controllable. And when you're not so controllable, you're not so scary, young. And when you're not so scary, young, it's easy to love. Because you can protect and you can provide, young. But the reason why you can't protect and you can't provide is because you don't know where you've been turned around backwards, young. And you won't And you feeling the shame and guilt of it every time you fall in default, you know? Every time. Mothers and fathers. You know what I'm saying? Family members and friends separated because you in default. Because you're not honorable, you know? You haven't taught to be honorable, you know? You haven't been taught how to make the sacrifices. You got to be not just taught, you got to be trained in that, you know? You got to be trained to overcome your fear. The whole Bible is telling you that you can't please God with fear, you know? And I'm saying, not in no ignorant ass way that shit don't matter, you know? Shit matter. If you don't eat, you gonna starve, you know? If you don't drink water and breathe, you gonna die, you know? No matter what your faith is or what the fuck you believe. That's beyond logic, you know? And that ain't the right time to apply that shit. You see what I'm saying? But you got all these obligations and you way behind. You gotta commit to showing up, you know? And we can work through this shit. But if you're not gonna commit, you ain't got nothing. But I'm saying, you responsible for your family. You responsible for your community. Or somebody else is. And if somebody else is, then they in control of it.
By default.
By default. So if you letting somebody else pay your women because you can't earn enough money, yeah, by default, yeah, she gonna be loyal to him. Go back and read the Willie Lynch letter, yeah. And what kind of baby she gonna produce, yeah? She gonna produce babies that's already delivered up to him, yeah, to the master, the money master, yeah. And so if you not gonna master money, you gonna be a subject man. You not gonna be no alpha man. Niggas running around here talking about alpha man. Yeah, that shit ain't just about bronze. Yeah, it is about bronze, but it's also about brains, huh? Go study with some boxers, huh? Them motherfuckers don't fight angry, huh? You waste your energy. You know what I'm saying? I just wasted my energy, but I was just moving the fucking stress of all of the fucking defaults, yeah? You know what I'm saying? But we gonna get it together. You do what you can to get your family in order around these subjects that I'm talking about. Asset law, trust law, the rules of order, the rules of engagement, yeah? How to be a giver, yeah? How to give of yourself. And that's the foundational principles of husbandry, yeah? Is giving. When you give of your time and your energy and your talent, yeah, you are planting seeds, yeah? And if it's infertile ground, what's going to happen? You're going to yield a return. Just like God said, 30, 60, 90 fold. But if you waste or don't be a good steward of your time and energy, it's just like wasting your money. But you don't really see it that way. Your time and energy and money is part of your estate. If you haven't learned to be a professional investor, you need to get with us, because that's what husbandry is about. Proverbs 31. If you're not a Proverbs 31 woman, and y'all not trying to figure out how to get off the dependence of an external source for your sustenance other than God, you are out of order, because whoever control your food and water control you, Wow. Anytime they want to, son. And I'm saying, setting this stuff up is very simple and easy, and it don't even cost that much, But you ain't interested in laying the foundation the way that God said. Because that sounds like some old school shit. They tricked you. One thinking you need to be sophisticated. Yeah, it's an order to sophistication. You got to build to that, and you got to lay the foundation. But you got to show up. That's you planting your seeds. And if you, again, like I said, if you don't want to, just say that you don't want to. And if you can't, say that you can't. If you can't, then we need to find out what the issues are and see if we can come up with some arrangements that make the shit equitable. And that's what honor and dishonor is about. It's about keeping account, how you use your time, energy, and money. Your awareness is based on space and time, You got to be able to figure out where you are at in space and time in the world, and in space and time in your mind, and in your state, in your lineage, in your family history. And you got to be thinking about your past, and you got to be thinking about your future in order to figure out where you at right here and what you should be doing with your time and energy. That informs you, yeah? But if you're not spending none of your life on this, yeah, you're never going to find out. You don't even know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And again, this is not a put down. It's a put down on your family, yeah? That they in default, they didn't stand up to their obligations, just like I didn't. And it was my fault. But this is the shit that we got to be doing. And listen, if you don't break this stuff down to the lowest fundamental common denominator, you're never going to figure it out, you know? I heard somebody, I think it was Nelly Fuller, said that, you know, if you don't understand those things that he's talking about white supremacy, you know, all it's going to do is confuse you when you try to learn about it. So when you listening to whatever the popular person is that's getting your attention by polarizing your motherfucking ass in a very entertaining way, and I'm saying, though, you learn through entertainment, though, y'all. Matter of fact, you are trained and conditioned better through entertainment than you are at any official learning session. You know what I'm saying? And so, all of this energy I just put in here, and y'all might not want to hear me ranting and raving and shit, you need to hear this shit, you know? This is your immune system, you know? That God sent you, you know? Trying to help you understand where you missed it and how to get it right. It's simple. Honor and dishonor. Showing up and not showing up. Being dependable and not being dependable. But here's what happens, y'all. These injuries cause us mental and emotional injuries. And then we're disorganized to some degree. And it causes us to disassociate from ourselves, in our families, in our communities. And it causes us to avoid the friction that sharpens us. And I know it's a lot and it's hard, but damn, if it was paying you to do this shit, you'd be right here. Right? Ain't that right? But I can show you how to get paid doing this. Not doing this, but I'm saying I can mentor you through husbandry and how to be a Proverbs 31 woman, you know? Because that's what the whole idea of money is based on. But it's too complicated for you, you know? If your family has been getting cheated for 53 years, you know, out of its true value for its labor, you know, and you not make no mention of it, as if it's fine, a motherfucker going in your pocket and taking that value out of there, you know, you can't be a man. What man gonna let somebody take something from him out their pocket? Or what man gonna make him work for less than what he worth? The one that ain't smart enough to do nothing else. That's the one. Or the one too weak. And I'm saying, ain't like we ain't competent and capable, but we get caught up. These injuries, this emotional pain, this mental pain, these are not permanent injuries, huh? They are injuries that need to be integrated. And you need a group to integrate them. It's called rites of passage. You stuck out in the wilderness, huh? Because you didn't have a group leading you through that shit. That's all that happened. You stuck out there. And you won't let nobody, a man, do that for you, yeah? Take you through the pain, young. Make you face the fear, young, of dying. Make you face the fear of hurting, young. So that you could do what you need to do. And show you, young, you gonna survive that shit. But not only do you gotta face it, you gotta go through it, and you gotta be able to keep your head and stay in order. Keep your head in the game, Herb. Come on. See, I know they might think I'm out of the game right now, young, but I'm coaching right now. I ain't the player right now. You got to learn how to do that, and you got to let another man take you through that. And y'all women, y'all got to go through that, and you got to let another group of women take y'all through that, you know? Otherwise, you're going to look for sex. You're going to look for drugs. You're going to look for alcohol. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those things. Those are all great gifts from God, you know? But if it's an escape from your obligations and your duties or your responsibilities to show up, to learn what you need to learn, to condition yourself to be what you need to do, then you're not a man and you're not a woman by no definition. You know what I'm saying? Although it's very few, they out there. You gotta know where to look for them at. I got it. But anyway, we gotta get to work, yo. And if we can't get that you not disgusted at a motherfucker been stealing from your parents, stealing from you, it's injured your parents, and you not willing to say, young, that's enough for me to show up every day, young, and figure out how they did that shit to us, and how to stop it, and how to put this shit together for your children's children to make sure it don't happen to them. And if you showing up for that, if you show up, then you can consider yourself a man and start letting yourself off the hook, or a woman. But if not, young, you need to feel all the shame and guilt that come with, young, being dishonorable, young. Because, young, that's how the world works. It ain't nothing about intent, young. It's about accuracy or inaccuracy. It's about progress or regression. It's about provision and protection. That's the only way love can live, young. If we need civilization, young, for peace, then people got to be educated to the standard, young, to defend justice, young. That's what another thing we talking about here. Justice. And if you're not showing up, man, I'm just saying, young, how do you call yourself a man? How do you call yourself a woman? If you can't admit that you don't know, ain't nobody telling you to get off of drugs. Nobody telling you to stop abusing alcohol. Just listen. It's a passage in the Bible I learned. I'm not sure where it's at, but it talked about a field of wheat and some daggone, what you call that shit? Weeds. Got, what you call it? Thrown out in the field. And they said, should we pull up the weeds? Nah, we ain't gonna pull up the weeds, because we might pull up the wheat. We might pull up the wheat. And so, I ain't telling you to stop them vices, young, but you could take 1 hour out of your 24 and commit to learning, young. To a motherfucker who knows, show up, young. Can you teach me? Y'all should be asking me, can I teach y'all, young? I shouldn't be asking y'all, can I teach you? And hey, you might be looking at my cash flow, being in a situation that is slow right now, but it's slow because everybody in default. I got assets. I made investments. I got agreements. Them motherfuckers in default. Because motherfuckers not showing up to do the work, to cooperate. You got to get in the habit of showing up for yourself and for each other. And then you can solve these shortcomings, young. You can catch up on that trade deficit. You going out to work for whatever you going out to work for, and the weights and balance, the calibration is off by 98%. 98%. And wondering why you can't meet your obligations. But it ain't just that. We should have realized what was going on and made the adjustment. It didn't even need to be no audible. All you had to see, if you was paying attention to the shit that we should be paying attention to, you could see where it happened. You get what I'm saying? And so if you see where it happened at, then you can make the corrections. But anyway, you ain't gonna do nothing, young, until you admit that you don't know. Until you regain your curiosity, your insatiable thirst for finding out why you are getting your asses kicked. And only then will you begin be on your path, young. And you got to become a scholar, young. Your ancestors are scholars, young. In order to create a civilization, young, that you could create these high philosophies and these high sciences, young, you have had to have figured out how to easily protect and provide for yourself, young. In a way shorter period of time than 8 hours a day. Shouldn't take you no 8 hours a day to make no fucking living. when God returning 30 and 60-fold. For the ones who following and who studying and doing what he said do. He ain't say nothing about no money. Yeah, but the money say something about in God we trust, don't it? And who is your God? Your mother and your father. Or whoever it is that taught you in school. Or whoever it is that gave you your religion. Or whoever it is that showed you how to be in relationship. Or who showed you how to be in family. And be productive enough to protect yourself and provide for yourself, And every time y'all sell out for them fucking checks, you selling your soul and your family soul. Because God ain't tell you to work for a check either. No. He told you to get in the garden. That's what he told you. Way before y'all born. I was thinking about y'all. And that's why I'm doing this. And that's why I'm making this video. All right, let's get back to you. Now, all things being equal, if people show up, guess what's going to happen? Some of the deficiencies are going to start leaving, Do you know what deficiencies are? Deficiencies are shortcomings. Deficiencies are sins. God damn it. You don't think nobody's supposed to be cussing? Man, listen, that's just foul language. Motherfucking curse is when your ass can't protect your motherfucking labor. And guess what? Judge Joe Brown said, all y'all black people that's in jail, you are excess labor that they don't know what to do with. And you think it's a fucking game, it ain't. And they try to put y'all asses in there as fast as they can. And guess what? Your ass not showing up. Guess what you gonna have to be? A motherfucking criminal. That's the only game left. That's the only game left. You gonna play God's game or the criminal game, Now which one is gonna be? For me, it's gonna be the God's game. Cause I ain't no motherfucking criminal. I'm a noble. I'm as smart as any man lived. And I'm as strong as any man that ever lived. And I can do anything that any man has ever done on this motherfucking planet. And so can you. But you forgot. Alright, show up. Every day. Show up like you brush your teeth. Show up like you take a piss. Show up like you take a shit. Show up like it's important. Like your life matters. Like my life matters. And your children's lives matter. Show up. Admit this shit. You don't know, It don't cause a whole fucking lot to just show up and listen, And if you listen long enough, then you'll engage, And my man, like he said, that should have changed your logic, And then you'll go out in the world and you'll start negotiating differently for your labor. And guess what'll happen? And then you'll start having enough to fulfill your obligations and your duties. And guess what? Then you'll be in honor. And then you can stand tall and be masculine. And tell anybody that says masculinity is toxic to kiss your ass. Excuse me. All right, let me get it back. All right, now once you show up, you got to start with law, Language. Language is law. Spells, You cast spells with language. Now I ain't talking no hocus pocus shit now. Although it seemed like it. But magic is real, Magic is real. They call it the Philosopher's Stone, What the fuck is your philosophy?
And they call it a stone because that's what your life is resting on. Your philosophies. Where'd you get them from? Why do you have them? Are they protecting you? Are they providing for you? See, now you got to go through discovery once you show up. But you got to be showing up knowing that it's going to be some friction. It's not going to be easy. Because everything in your spirit going to make you want to disassociate. It's going to make you want to avoid it. Because it's going to hurt in the beginning, y'all. Because you got to detox, y'all. Them fucked up philosophies. And them sad-ass ideas, y'all. And them ineffective concepts. You got to rewrite that shit, y'all. You got to learn how to evaluate it. You got to become a professional husbandry or investor. And if you don't learn how to do that, you're not going to be protecting a whole lot. And don't get me wrong, you can pull a gun, you can fight. But hey, anything that we call concerning finances, y'all, you might as well bow out, y'all. Especially how it's about to get now, y'all. Because the world about to get real crazy, y'all. They ain't just do us, y'all. They do the whole lot of people, y'all. But anyway, once you show up, y'all, you got to learn language, y'all. Like I said, you really need to get with me, y'all, if you don't know what the word bank means. What you think the word bank means? Did I tell you already?
You probably have, but I probably forgot.
All right, young. I apologize for all the ranting and raving, young. I love y'all. That's what the whole reason why I had to do the ranting and raving, young. Because I need y'all to hear me, young. And hear the motherfucking sense of urgency, young. It's a game, young. And I look at it like a game. But it's a life and death game. I like playing it, young. And I'm more than competent. And I only got a little bit more time, young, to stay on this level, young. No bullshit. I'm saying, though. Because this level is moving too slow for me. I got people on different tiers that I can also work with who are already up to speed. Their fundamentals is already up. And so as a result, they can move. I mean, because you're playing an infinite game and you're going to die around 100 and some years or whatever. So, you ain't got forever. You got to move at a certain pace, just like your labor got to pay at a certain rate to balance, to calibrate the deficiencies. And it's just showing the deficiencies in your ignorance, y'all. Because ain't nobody got your gun in your head making you go to them schools and go to them churches and even work and do your economy the way that you're doing it. Y'all, nobody forcing you to do that, y'all. You know what I'm saying? You can change. You free to change, y'all. And that's why the system fair. It's fair because you can compete your way out. You can think your way out. You can earn your way out. You can show yourself up a way out. And guess what? When you start working together, y'all, and you start working as a team, y'all, you ain't got to be the strongest nigga around. You ain't got to be the smartest nigga around, y'all, or person. Because your team makes up for your deficiencies. Or your family, or your community. You're not going to get away from it, y'all. You're going to have relatives up and down, left and right. And you sitting in these apartment complexes and on these streets and not organized, y'all. And I'm saying you got to organize your house first. But, hey, the people in your house may not even be willing to do it. So then you need to go and organize the street. You know what I'm saying? That's what God did, y'all. When he started creating, he started not only creating and producing, he started organizing. And then God said, and then it was 5, 6, 7 times in a row. You know what I'm saying? Go back and study that junk, y'all. We're going to talk about it. You know what I mean? But, hey, I keep going back to that junk, y'all, because you don't even got a team, y'all. If people can't commit to each other, y'all. You got to commit to the wins and you got to commit to the losses, y'all. But y'all is only committed to money. So you sell each other out, y'all, for the money. You sell your parents out, you sell your children out, you sell each other out, y'all. You don't go and work as hard as you do, most of you, for your friends and your family. You don't go around and ask them, y'all, how you doing? What's going on with you? What you struggling with? What you trying to accomplish?
Is there anything I can do to help you, young? So everybody is under-resourced, young. Not really undercapitalized. The capital is just underdeveloped. The human capital is underdeveloped. And as a result, you can't take advantage of the natural capital, the natural resources. In a world when you got Dutch, Spanish, French, all these 100 and some nations competing for their share of the natural resources for the purpose of meeting their basic essential needs and defending themselves from the 190 some other countries. And guess what? You got to defend yourself against psychological attacks, yo. That's called a cold, covert war, yo. And it's been a cold, covert war on your labor, on my labor since 71. And that's why all this got to come out, man. And this explains why I'm behind on all of my debts. I'm a publish a paper with all the details and everything, but that's not like this. But we just getting started on this. I can go into the teaching, you know, but what good is it to go into the teaching? The niggas want to get you the money, but they don't want to learn the fundamentals. You got to show up to learn the fundamentals to get the money. But guess what? You will figure out how to meet your basic needs if you show up an hour or two each day to learn the fundamentals, young. Because it's going to be easy to meet the money needs when now you got leveraged labor. If you got 10 people working together for 2 hours a day, that's 20 hours of leveraged labor in one day. But everybody only gave up 10% of that, you know? You see what I'm saying? And then that starts building and gaining momentum and gaining strength and shit. And then it begins to earn without you while you're not there. And then it gets enough to where, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. You got to learn what economy is and what your resources are and how to use them and why to use them. The why is, how do you feel when somebody steals from you, young? What is your response from that? What's your natural response if somebody stole money from you or anything from you? The natural, appropriate response is anger. Because you got to let them know, young, you can't steal from me, young. Why? Not because I said you can't, because I'm going to fuck you up if you keep stealing from me. And I don't give a fuck about going to jail or dying. I give a fuck about justice. Because it's all important. Because somebody going to get hurt if I don't do that. You see what I'm saying? And just like if I keep selling out for the money, somebody going to get hurt because this don't get made. The information don't come out. Motherfuckers keep going to work thinking that they going to keep working jobs for the next couple generations and going to make it and have any type of standard of living that's worth even living. You know, and I'm saying it's just a small tweak in perspective. And it ain't a judgment on who you are. It's a judgment on who we are and who we have allowed ourselves to become. And who is interested in restoring your greatness, young? Who's interested in restoring your honor, young? And your dignity, young? That shit is about dignity. That's why I don't take no motherfucking handouts, young. Because I need to feel the uncomfortableness of my ineffectiveness and my inefficiency so that I can raise my standards, so that I can be competent enough to be a man and fulfill my obligations and duties. I gotta go so hard on that jump because it's about stewardship, young. And I'm saying for months, I've been asking people to show up, young, 1 hour a day, young. People that I got business with, young. And they can't even commit an hour a day, young. They can't even come back with a counter offer and say, hey, I can't do 5 or 7 days a week, but let's do 3.5 days. You know, because when you know how when you know commerce, you know that everything's a negotiation. But when somebody's trying to help you and willing to slow down to help and not be willing to accept the help, that shit is sad, you know? And it's sickening. Because who are you? What are friends for? What is family for? What is your community and neighborhood for? Is it just a place to stay? Are they just people to look at? Are they people to only have fun with? Or are they people to learn and grow with and produce with? That's healthy. Because that's what's going to sustain you. That's sustainable. Just because millions of people think a certain thing does not make it sane, huh? Or have a flaw in their philosophy does not make it sane. And y'all need to be able to understand that and be able to stand on that, no matter if it's a whole bunch of motherfuckers trying to convince you of something differently. And if you was ever going to get confused, guess what it was going to be about? And with God. And the next thing you was going to get confused with, guess what it was going to be about? Money. And so you need to study. You need to train. And you need to commit. You know, and if you watching this shit, y'all, put in the chat. Put in there you want to commit, y'all. You willing to do what it takes, y'all. And sometimes you're going to have to start and you're going to have to stop. You're going to have to start and you're going to have to stop. It's all an investment, y'all. But if you don't show up, but like I said, one of my mentors just tell me we only come this way once, y'all. And I really didn't understand them and shit, y'all. But, you know, life is a series. You got your teens and you got your 20s and you got your 30s. You're going to need different knowledge and different standards in each decade of life, y'all. You're going to continuously be a rookie from life to death, y'all. You got to learn how to die, y'all. Just like you got to learn how to live. And you got to learn how to steward your time and energy, you know. But yeah, put in there, I want to commit. I'm ready to get started, you know. We'll have some ways for y'all. You know, for those of you who are outside of my family, who, you know, want to start regaining their honor, you know. Becoming capable of staying in default, you know. And I'm saying, there's a basic training that you're going to have and a basic understanding that you're going to have, you know. And you're going to have to invest time and you're going to have to invest money in getting it, you know. And if you not, you know, I ain't going to say you might as well stop going to work, you know, but you might as well stop complaining when you ain't got enough, you know. And you might as well stop complaining when you ain't got what you want. And you might as well just go ahead and get yourself girded up, you know, to experience a lot of discomfort and shit, you know. Because when you under-resourced, you know, you are powerless, you know. And that powerlessness, only thing you can do is rely on God. And so you out of the race of producing a living at that point. That shit is supposed to help you regulate the fear, you know, that you're going to have to face to carry out what God told you to do. God told you to be a gardener, you know. He didn't tell you to go be no lawyer. As society progressed, man made laws, you know. And since they made them, you know, they made them after looking at nature and shit. You know what I'm saying? And this is how we have civilization, because we got rules. But in theory, the system would work if everybody was educated. Benjamin Franklin, at the end of the Constitutional Congress, said, a lady asked him, what form of government do we have? He said, a republic, madam, if you can keep it. Now, I didn't fact check that. That's just some colloquial history. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's interesting to say. When you were a child and you were in school and you pledged allegiance to the republic for which we stand. Indivisible, under liberty, and justice. Justice for all. That's what they made me pledge to all the days that they was miseducating me. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? Now they call it a democracy. Hey, is it a republic or is it a democracy? Hey, I guess it don't matter if the people don't know the difference. Because in a republic, you got recourse for the losses to my estate. suffered by the act of this government in 1971. They got a social obligation, and all the public servants of that year and every year moving forward has an obligation to the social contract, y'all. And if for whatever reason you can't or don't, you think them people was wrong when they went down into that Capitol, y'all? Them people was not wrong, y'all. And I'm not saying that they should have done it like that, y'all. Ain't no way they should have been breaking in no way, y'all, because you guys stay civilized, y'all. At all times. You can get mad and you can yell, but you keep your hands to yourself, y'all. And you don't destroy nobody else's property. Because that's civil. But you protest, y'all. And you go there. And you let people know, y'all. We are trying to stay civil. But check it out, young. If there are rules, and the people who are supposed to be enforcing these rules are misusing them for their advantage, or matter of fact, their only job is to protect your rights, huh? That's it. That's the only rights. The only job is to make sure that your rights don't get trampled on. Not to trick you out of them, or not to dumb your ass down so you can't have them. And I'm talking about a republic and a democracy. The only reason why they mad at Trump, because they can't control his ass, huh? Because he can think. And he got a very good sense of self. That he knows that he's created in God's image and likeness, and he shows up like it. He's not showing up like no puppet, like the rest of them that's counting on a motherfucking check. He's confident in his ability to provide and protect. And he's confident in his ability to suffer whatever consequence it takes to be a motherfucking man, yo. Manhood. Masculinity. Femininity. Necessary. Polarities, huh? All right, back to it. Showing up.
Showing up.
Go ahead.
You were saying, I mean, it's a lot of things about defining what, you know.
Start it over, young. That joint long as shit.